Okay, so I propose to start. So today we have our second speaker in this lounge zone, and here is Martin Woolley, and he is technical program manager at Bluetooth SIG. So Martin, welcome to IT Arena today.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yeah, Martin, and my first question to you, actually, we were talking with you before this recording and this official part of the meeting. So how your interest about the computers evolved? Because you're already for 30 years in this industry.
Yeah, well, I was just lucky. I think I was introduced to a computer by one of my teachers when I was a teenager. This was before computers or computer science was being taught in schools. And I was just lucky I had a teacher who knew about computers. He brought one into class, this big thing, put it on a desk, showed us a game, interrupted it and showed us the code and started to explain it. And that's where it all started for me. I think out of the 30 teenagers he showed this to, maybe 3 of us got really, really interested. And I can plot everything I've done professionally since then back to that moment. It's all thanks to that one teacher. I'm very grateful to him, to be honest.
Wow, so 30 years from that moment or a bit later?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it all started there, no question. I'd never seen a computer before that moment, so yeah.
And as I understand, you saw different types of computers, from that big ones to that small and microcomputers as well.
Yeah, I've worked with lots. I mean, I started with mainframes, really. Well, that's not true. I bought my own computer when I was a teenager, and that was a tiny thing called a ZX81. Taught myself to code. My first job was with a mainframe computer, great big thing in a room with air conditioning and pipes and things like this. But today, of course, the trend is towards, kind of 2 extremes, really. Internet of Things is bringing small, connected devices that use Bluetooth technology for communication, and they can be tiny with sensors in them, that kind of thing. That's more the world that I now work in. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have cloud computing running huge clusters of servers, running artificial intelligence and data analytics and that kind of thing. So computers big and small, kind of collaborating to deliver value. That's what it's all about with Bluetooth as one of the key enablers.
So right now computers are becoming really small, and as you mentioned, those Bluetooth technologies and systems. Let's talk about your company. What are you doing right now, and what is technology is about?
So Bluetooth, I think, is a technology everyone's heard of. It's, I think, 92% of people recognize the brand. It's in every smartphone on the planet, so pretty much everybody has Bluetooth in their pockets. Now, Bluetooth is a standard, which is one of the reasons it's successful, because it means that different manufacturers can implement Bluetooth in their products, and those 2 products from different vendors will work together because it's a standard. So my company manages that standard. We're kind of in the middle. We own the specification and the process that produces it and that delivers new capabilities for it. So the reason I'm here today really is to talk about a brand new Bluetooth technology called Bluetooth Mesh. So the specification for this was released only 2 months ago. It's really new. We're already beginning to see companies picking up the technical specification and start to work on new products for it. So if you're accustomed to seeing Bluetooth devices working in pairs, working together, Bluetooth Mesh is completely different. It's for thousands of devices to work in a mesh network like a spider's web, possibly enveloping a whole building or a collection of buildings across a very wide area. So this is entirely new. Think about smart buildings, the smart home, sensor networks in industry, that kind of thing. That's what Bluetooth Mesh is for. So it's quite revolutionary.
But did I understand it right? Right now, using your technology, I can provide kind of intranet inside my building and nobody can interrupt into it.
You could do for the right kind of data. So it's for small amounts of data, for controlling things. So controlling lighting systems and heating systems, that kind of thing. And it's for sensors to measure aspects of the environment and then to deliver those measurements wirelessly, hopping across the mesh network to wherever they need to be. And it's for automation. It's for automating all sorts of systems, behaviors in industrial scenarios and in buildings and things like that. So,
and I understand you're using this technology right now in smart homes. Please, yes or?
I'm going to say no, because the specification was only released 2 months ago. But smart homes, smart commercial buildings, these are the places that it will be adopted by, because that's what it was designed for, that's for sure. There's always a delay between the specification being released and then manufacturers picking it up and producing new products. But 6 months from release, we will see lots of products on the markets for sure. We have a database. I'm already seeing products appear in that database only 2 months later. So,
And do you have any competitors of this technology, which are the nearest ones to you?
yeah, we do. There are other mesh networking technologies. They use their own approach. They're not well known. I've never met anybody who doesn't work in the industry who's ever heard of any of the other names at all. Not to be disrespectful of them, of course. They're quite niche technologies with quite small market share, and they do what they do. But rather than regard them as our competitors, I think now we're their competitor, and they probably are watching with great interest what the impact of Bluetooth mesh will be on their own situation.
You need to watch competitors as well.
Of course you do, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I like about working with the Bluetooth Special Interest Group is that nobody's complacent, nobody assumes that things will succeed, everyone works hard, they listen to the members, the customers really who use our technology, and Bluetooth has been around now for nearly 20 years. Yeah. And one of the reasons it's not just survived, but it's growing at an enormous rate, like 10 million devices every day are shipping. One of the reasons for that is that it hasn't stood still. It's been systematically improved over the years because we listen and we watch the marketplace quite carefully.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting thing in case of product management, for example, or product development, because Bluetooth is already on the market, as you said, for the last 20 years, and you need to make the next step because the technology can be like absent for the next decades, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, technologies come and go. We all know that. Bluetooth has gone through an interesting kind of evolutionary path. In the very beginning, it was really about two devices losing the cable, so replace the cable with wireless communication. Very successful with things like audio products, so wireless headphones, for example, still use Bluetooth. It's called BR, EDR, that's the old version, and it's for point-to-point connections. Then the next major step was Bluetooth Low Energy. That's about 7 years old now. Bluetooth Low Energy is all over the place. It's in every smartphone. It's in, if you have a Fitbit, a fitness tracker or something, it's in that. It's in medical devices. And it was really highly optimized to use very, very little power and to be very responsive, very fast responses. So that also enabled new use cases, new product types, and it supports one-to-many communication. So not just two devices, but one device talking to many devices at the same time. Wind forward to 2 months ago to this day, and Bluetooth Mesh is about many-to-many communication. So large collections, 1,000 devices all able to communicate with each other, even if they're not in direct radio range, because messages from one device can get relayed, they bounce across the network, taking what we call hops from device to device, traveling at the speed of sound until they reach the devices that they're destined for. So very fast response, traveling a long way.
Wow, it sounds amazing. And
it is.
Yeah, and I would like to ask you about the smart home case.
Okay.
Because a lot of us here are IT specialists and people who are building their homes in a smart way. Yeah. So concerning your new technology, which will be released in 6 months, which benefits it will give to smart home comparing to that smart homes which are right now here on the market?
Well, the technology is released now. So
it's already on the market.
So 2 months ago it was released, and again, what we release is the specification that's defining how it should work. So now manufacturers have to implement.
Yes, that's what I mean.
And some of them are already very far advanced because they were working on the technology with us. So a lot of those companies, they're part of the design team, and therefore they're ahead of the curve. They'll get their products to market very quickly. And in 6 months, this is my estimate, we'll see a lot of products. So right now we're seeing the first early adopters getting their products ready today, but in 6 months there'll be many of them. For the smart home, it's about whole home coverage. So Bluetooth is a radio technology, and communicating wirelessly inside any kind of building, including a home, can be challenging. There are walls, there are physical barriers, there are people who are full of water, by the way, and water has interesting effects on how radio works. So a mesh network is a topology that allows you to cover the entire home very reliably. And Bluetooth mesh has a very good range as well between individual devices. So achieving a truly smart home, one of the prerequisites is that you're able to have communication spanning the entire home and all the spaces that it contains, including the roof space and under the ground in the garden, because you're going to have sensors there. The word smart interests me and sometimes annoys me a little because it gets used for everything these days, of course. Every new product is smart because it has a battery in it, maybe. But it can be very meaningful. And smart in the context of a smart home or a smart building is all about intelligence, really. It's about self-awareness almost of the building and its state and the people who are in it and what their normal patterns of behavior are, and using that knowledge to achieve interesting and useful automated behaviors in the home. And that can only happen with data. So you can only really achieve true smartness as in intelligence if you have the right data at the right time, measuring the right aspects of the home or building environment. So building a sensor network from Bluetooth mesh is one of the ways that you can acquire that data and then send it to the cloud for analysis. And then there's a feedback loop to achieve automation and control of the home in a smart way that maybe saves you money, reduces your energy costs, that kind of thing. So those are the sorts of benefits I expect to see.
But let me ask you, who is your like target customer? Are those builders of the smart homes, or those are like B2C people, like consumers itself?
Yeah, I think top of the list actually. We're more interested right now in smart buildings, as in commercial buildings, than the residential smart home. Both are of interest, but one of the reasons the smart building is more interesting is that there's a clear business case. So architects and construction companies and lighting designers for commercial buildings, they already have some quite challenging goals to achieve, often to do with building regulations, often to do with energy efficiency and cost. This is the driver for them turning to technology to help them achieve these goals. And in some parts of the world, there are laws, regulations they have to comply with. And if their building is not energy efficient enough, they can't open their building. So there's a clear motivation for them to turn to technology to help them to create these intelligent buildings and workspaces, which are very energy efficient, very safe, and deliver all sorts of efficiency, kind of inducing services within the building. So that's probably our main market now. And lighting in particular is very interesting because lighting forms, if you think about it, a natural connectivity grid. Lights are everywhere. They're all around the building. They have a permanent power supply. And smart lights are actually computers. They have a microcontroller in them, which is programmable. They have a Bluetooth mesh communications component so they can talk to other devices. And they run software. So one of the visions we have for the smart home and smart building industry is that when a lighting system is deployed, a Bluetooth mesh lighting system is installed in a building, on day one it's providing smart lighting services, but on day two, by adding further software, it's doing other things. It's tracking assets that are moving through the building.
Oh, so the light can follow you.
The light can follow things, and those things might be attached to people. So Bluetooth has a capability called advertising, which can broadcast a unique number. So if anyone's heard of a Bluetooth beacon, that's what Bluetooth beacons are. They broadcast a unique ID, and then an application on, say, a tablet or a phone can map that ID to a place or an object and give information. And in the context of lights again, if the lights are acting as beacons, then we can write smartphone applications that help people navigate through large buildings because the lights are telling you where you are. Think about airports. The big
like in the airport, that's what I was thinking.
Complicated buildings, that's right. So helping people move through that space efficiently is a really useful thing to be able to do. And you can turn that on its head as well because, I mean, I've had meetings with large companies, global companies, you've heard of them, I can't say who they are, but they make things like power tools, drills for construction. They are going to embed Bluetooth beacon technology inside those devices. So now your drill is invisibly broadcasting its identity. Your lighting system, of course, can scan and collect those broadcasts, and then you can keep track of where all the things are in your building. So you don't lose things anymore. Or better still, you can actually, if you think about manufacturing, you can watch where the raw materials and components of your manufacturing process are in that workflow and make optimizations and make sure things are getting to the right place as quickly as... So there's enormous potential for Bluetooth mesh in lots of contexts, and there's enormous potential for lighting as a Bluetooth mesh system because it becomes this physical infrastructure that can support all sorts of IT services that are not anything to do with lighting. It's a whole new world.
Thank you. It's really interesting that you have so many appliances of your technology in different. So your market is kind of huge.
Also. We think so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're trying to be focused on specific areas to start with so that the technology is well understood and can take hold. So again, lighting and smart buildings are kind of key for us right now, but we'll broaden our focus later on. But I bet you that the market will do what it wants to do anyway with the technology. That's what always happens. So it's not up to us. Yeah.
Martin, I would like now to pause for a bit, just our talk, and invite other people who want to ask questions, because here we have kind of conversation. So we really invite you to the lounge zone to ask your question to our speakers. Okay, everyone is talking and networking right now.
Yeah.
So thank you for your... right now, you enlightened me about your technology, and I want to talk about you for a bit. We saw, so some uncommon questions. We saw on LinkedIn that you are working with EMEA region right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us, I mean, all of us, because we are really interested, what are the differences between the regions inside the EMEA region?
Yeah, I think there's some big differences. I mean, I'm still learning about this myself. I visit and speak at events all over the region, mostly in Europe, but I've been further afield. I speak in the United States as well. I am definitely seeing a distinction between, maybe not a distinction, I see interesting things happening in Eastern Europe, definitely.
Which one? I mean,
well,
just one.
The ones I've been to, of course, are here. Romania as well, and Bulgaria. In Romania, for example, I met with the R&D team from a large company who make sporting-related devices, mostly for cyclists, actually, and I'm into cycling, so I was really interested to talk to them.
Cycling is popular there.
Yeah, the key point here, though, is it's a big global brand. I think head office is in the United States, but their R&D team, who do all of the software development, was right there in a small city in Romania. So increasingly, I'm seeing some very kind of hardcore technical work, very innovative work happening in different parts of Eastern Europe. And it was one of the reasons I was very interested to see this event had been organised, and I actually approached them to see if I could be a speaker. So that's definitely one distinction.
And concerning Africa and Middle East, what you can tell about those regions?
Yeah, I know less about them. I mean, my experience of the Middle East comes from before this job. I've worked in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. I've worked in Qatar a little. I don't really see those particular places as places where innovative IT development work happens, and I hope I'm not offending anybody by making that statement. Often there are technology companies based there, but I suspect they're more really sales offices.
Yeah, and they are investing a lot of money, as I know as well.
Yeah, very probably. So, I mean, they're interesting marketplaces, but I'm not sure that's where the actual innovation is happening in terms of technology. Africa, my experience is quite limited. I've been to North Africa. I spoke at a very interesting event in Tunisia a couple of years ago, and I like that one very much. It was full of young people who were computer science students doing master's degrees, full of ideas, absolutely full of ideas and ambition to change the world. That particular country not long ago was a dictatorship. They had a revolution. There was the Arab Spring, so there's lots of optimism. That was a really interesting place to be.
But usually in such environments, people evolve. I mean, diamonds evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I came away very optimistic that things would be changing in a very positive way in that country, and all those brilliant young people I spent time talking with would achieve their goals through their hard work and their brains. That's all they want. So.
Awesome, Martin. Yeah. Thank you so much for this short interview. But till the end of the interview, I would love to ask you your wisdom to share with Ukrainian engineers to the audience which is here. What you would say?
Wisdom? Do I have any wisdom?
Yeah, a piece of wisdom.
If I was studying and had ambition to make my living, maybe make my fortune in the world of technology now, I would absolutely be looking at the Internet of Things. It's a broad banner heading, but it's where a great deal of growth is going to happen. Then I'd look inside that and look at the key technologies that I really need to learn about. And I'd look for the things I'm interested in. There are two things to try and do in any career. One is make a living and feed your family, maybe more than that if you're lucky. And the other is to be fulfilled and happy. So I'd look at Internet of Things. I'd definitely, and I know I have a bias here, I'd learn about Bluetooth and especially Bluetooth mesh networking because it's one of the key enablers for the IoT. Do those things and find something that absolutely inspires you, and everything else, if you work hard, will happen.
And the very last question from me, what is the next frontier for the Bluetooth technology and IoT technology as well? I mean, IoT industry in whole. What do you think about it?
That's a hard question. I'm never very good at forecasting the future too much, I don't think. I mean, we're working on lots of different things all the time. Mesh happens to be the most recent major thing that we've accomplished. We're doing some work that will deliver what I'll call next generation audio over Bluetooth. We haven't forgotten the world of audio, still very, very important. So, watch out for some announcements there over, say, the next year. Bluetooth beacons are still amazing. They're very simple devices, but the forecasts we see for their use are astonishing. I think in 2021, this is a statistic from ABI Research, one of the industry analysts, they forecast that in that year alone, 565 million Bluetooth beacons will ship. So these things will be everywhere. They'll be in museums, art galleries,
will watch us.
in shops, No, it's not Big Brother. It's not. They don't monitor you at all, okay? They help you achieve results, to find your way through a store or an airport, to find information about the museum exhibits that you're looking at right now. They're really helpful devices, and you have to opt in to use them. So you're in control of that. There's no privacy issue there at all. I saw a really interesting product a few weeks ago, power outlets that you plug things into for power that had beacons embedded inside them. And the reason for that is that if you build a new building and you install these power outlets that have beacons inside them, think about the emergency services. These are big, complicated buildings. You're sick, you've had a heart attack, you're calling the emergency services. How do they know where you are? They know you're in that building. Wow. But this is a location technology that can save lives.
Wow, I see, Martin, that from your words, the best way to predict the future is to create it. So
absolutely.
Good luck.
Well said. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your talk.
You're welcome.